Good evening, everyone. It's so nice to see my people in the space joining on this screening today. And we have one of the stars of the film, Elisabeth Greer, and the director, Kevin Shaw. So the way this is going to work, it's not going to be live interaction. You cannot. Okay. All right, good. I'm sorry, I'm monitoring the chat. Great. So if you have questions, please put it in the chat because that's the way we're going to be able to do the Q&A. There is no way for the viewers to actually unmute and ask questions real time. So I'm going to actually get started with my first question, which is, how did you come to make this film, Kevin?
Thanks for having us, Shino. Really appreciate it. Great to see everybody. I'm glad everybody got an opportunity to watch the film this evening. So the short story is that Elisabeth and I were elementary school classmates. We had lost touch over the years, but we're reunited through social media after several decades, maybe not several, but a couple decades, okay? I noticed some postings on Elisabeth's feed about her fight to save National Teachers Academy, her children's school. And, that was the first time I heard about the story. It wasn't really getting a lot of news coverage in Chicago. So to hear about, an elementary school that was high performing, that was a beacon for Black children under this threat to be closed and transformed into a high school to benefit the neighborhood's wealthier residents was something that really just sounded crazy to me, frankly. I didn't feel like that was something that was right. And I wanted to understand what was the goings on behind the entire ordeal. And so that was the first thing. And then the second thing was that, one of the things I noticed when Elisabeth was posting a lot of these things, whether that be speeches that she was doing or protests or what have you, or in the newspaper articles, she had really, she was a different person from what I remember as a child, as an adolescent. She was very quiet and shy as a student, a lot like the student Ya, who's in our film. And so this person that I now saw here leading the charge had really kind of stepped into her voice and power. And that really spoke to this whole theme of average, everyday people, citizens, parents, students, educators, kind of stepping into their power, kind of answering the call and fighting for something that they believed in when it came in regards to social justice and education equity. So I wanted to explore that idea as well. So reaching out to Elisabeth, I told her what my intentions were, and she kind of opened the door for me to join the NTA family and see what would happen.
So follow-up question, was this before or after you, Elisabeth, decided to really get involved in this fight?
Kevin came in about midstream. We were about 1 year into our fight when Kevin asked if he could join us. And of course I said yes. Up until that point, as Kevin had mentioned, everything we were doing wasn't moving the needle, nothing. I mean, all of our protests, all of our letters, all of our following the rules and speaking at the board and pleading our case and, being polite citizens and being impolite citizens, none of those things were working at all. And the train was on the track and nothing was derailing it. So when Kevin asked if he could follow us in our fight, it was without hesitation. I said, absolutely. Mostly because I hoped that whatever it was Kevin was going to do, it might help us. I mean, we really had nothing to lose, by that point. So we just said, come on, Kevin, just join us for this ride. We're ready for you. We welcome you.
I gotta say, we feel your pain here in New York City. We've had so many fights when parents and students come out. We scream from the rooftops and nothing ever changes, which is why this film is so powerful, because you made it happen. And it's just so inspiring for us who are in a very similar fight here in New York City. So I've got a couple questions in the chat. First one, a very important question. How is the school doing now?
It's doing great. Everything has been just plugging along. We continue to be such a wonderful and warm community. The biggest change has been that Isaac Castellas, who is the principal in the movie, has moved on, and he is now an independent educational consultant. And the current principal is Tanika Brooks, who was the vice principal in the movie. And so now she is at the head. And actually currently our vice principal is Miss Langston, who you see briefly in the movie as an 8th grade teacher. So it's still all in the family. Our leadership continues to be so forward thinking and just a warm and welcoming place. And JP is still there. And so we're just so happy that we survived this, and not only survived, but that we are still thriving.
That's great to hear.
Isaac didn't get fired or anything, by the way. You know, he left on his own volition, and if there's one thing that I really didn't get to explore much in the film, although we filmed a lot of it, was just this the great dichotomy with Isaac and Tanika. They really were like Batman and Robin. They have such a close relationship, goes down to their families. They're very close as well. And that duo really helped, continue to make NTA the special place that it is. And so when Isaac was ready to move on his own volition, he said he knew that the school was in great hands, and made sure that Tanika would be the principal.
That's wonderful to hear. The next question, how have members of the NTA community reacted to the film?
They love it. I mean, it's just, Kevin did a private screening just for NTA, families and supporters and teachers and staff and, everyone who was really closely involved, on the ground. A lot of folks who see themselves in the movie, briefly. And so he held that offsite in a church that's very important to the community. And it was a marvelous time. We had food, we hung out together. It was a real call and response with the film. I've been to many, many screenings of the film, and this one was by far the most hilarious one, because teachers were shouting at the screen. Everyone was cheering and yelling, and it was really raucous, and it was really a lot of fun. The community really enjoyed it.
That was really one of the first times too, I think, that the community had gotten back together since the pandemic. So I think that was like a really great reunion for everyone, because people hadn't seen each other, during the entire COVID lockdown there. So that too added to just the joy that was happening that evening.
And I assume that you were welcomed into the community, Kevin, as a filmmaker by the
by the NTA. Definitely. Right. Yeah, for sure. Elisabeth, she introduced me to all the key parents, and then got to know all the students. And the number one person to know at first was Isaac, the principal, and once he gave his okay, which again was also immediate, he didn't hesitate at all in regards to allow me to be into the school and to meet people and film in the school. We were off and rolling, and we make jokes about it. There was a lot of times where maybe I might not be around at a certain meeting or a certain event. I couldn't be at everything, but a lot of the community members would then go around asking, well, where's the cameraman at? Where's the NTA cameraman at? They didn't know my name at first, but then they eventually got to know me. But I was known as the NTA camera guy for a while there.
And how did you manage to get interviews with folks from the South Loop Elementary School? Did they refuse to be interviewed after a while when they caught on, or how did that go?
Yeah, it was very hard at first because of that label that I was that got put on me in a fun, light way. I do believe people in the South Loop saw it as an adversarial label. Unfortunately, this neighborhood is very, there is a lot of discord still, a lot of rumors, and people that really just don't talk to one another. They just instead will kind of talk behind folks and stuff. And so it was very hard to penetrate that community. And what happened is that I really had to invoke some of the other people on our crew, some of the producers on our crew who happen to be white, to conduct those interviews with the South Loop, with the Prairie District Neighborhood Alliance people, Tina Feldstein and John Jacoby. I had reached out to them several times through email, and nothing really clicked. And then eventually, I had two of our producers, Fennell Dormius and Rachel Dixon, who was our main producer, and Fennell was a field producer. They kind of went out into the community, went to some of the LSC meetings there on the South Loop side, and just really worked it. And eventually we were able to get those two power brokers to sit down and do the interviews for the film. And it's not a unique trend in documentary when we're trying to produce stories that deal with race. It is hard for folks to feel comfortable sometimes, obviously, to talk about those issues, and especially talk about those issues with somebody that doesn't look like them. So I felt that this was a necessary tactic that I had to do. I really wanted to get the South Loop point of view in the film. I don't think the film is as strong without it. You needed to hear that other side. You needed to have that kind of conflict and really understand where both sides were coming from. And so we were fortunate to get it, and I'm glad we got it. What their point of view is in terms of their feelings about the movie now that it's out, I really don't know. We did send them links of the film when it first was released out in March publicly, but I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, I was wondering because boy, it's hard enough to watch those people talk, let alone in the space with them doing the interview. I can't imagine. I mean, how do you even sit through that?
Well, yeah,
it's not even a dog whistle.
Right. I don't even think that they get to that level if they're talking to me, and so that was kind of the point of having somebody from their same cultural background potentially interview them. So it is what it is, I guess.
I almost feel like the film should carry a trigger warning. But I want people to watch it, so I don't want to label the film unnecessarily, but some of those comments are just, and we get those people here too, right? So it's everywhere. Oh boy. Okay, I think I've got. Oh yes, I have a question. How have the CPS folks react, or do you know if they've even seen the film?
Here's another one. So, naively, I guess probably when I first started trying to film, I did ask CPS if I could film at the school. There's basically a form that you fill out and you put out there, and I never got any response back. And then as we started to really dive into the story, Isaac and I just kind of decided that, we weren't going to ask anymore. And he definitely wasn't going to ask his superiors because he felt like they would probably shut it down, even though, I'm just there really to try to capture scenes that show why NTA is such a special place, and to do it in a way where I'm not causing any harm to anybody, students, educators, not changing the school day in any way. I've filmed in schools before, so I do know how to do this, I think, fairly effectively. So yeah, we just continue to film throughout the entire journey. Once we were done, I did make another attempt to try to contact some CPS officials, the CEO at the time, who was Dr. Jackson. And again, I just didn't get any response back from them. So it's unfortunate. Again, I really wanted to get everybody's point of view in here, and it was important to try to get the school district's point of view instead of just using the public media footage to stand for their points of view, which, you know, we ended up having to do. And I still think it fairly represents what their intentions were and why they wanted to have this transition go down. As far as have they watched it, again, I don't know if they have. You know, our film has been out in the public for, you know, several months now, and there's been several opportunities for them to watch. And then I will be on PBS nationally in December and on the PBS video app for 3 months for free. So again, there'll be plenty of opportunities now to watch it. At one point in the summer, we did have some kind of back channel communications with the new CEO of CPS. Basically, all the people that you saw in the film from that district level, Board of Education, the CEO, they've all left. They're no longer there. So we have an entirely new group of people there. And the current CEO did express interest in seeing the film. But ultimately, we were never able to, you know, negotiate any sort of screening for him to watch. So, again, I don't know if they've seen it. We're hoping that they've seen it. You know, we don't want them to feel like the NTA scenario was a loss for them, because we know that that's what they do feel. You know, they do see it as a loss, and haven't been able to kind of take that 1,000-foot view and look at what their entire proposal did to the community in terms of what type of harm that it brought to the community, and how to not do this again when they have a new proposal going down. You know, we still don't have a high school in this South Loop neighborhood. There's a new proposal again for a high school in the South Loop neighborhood, which is they want to put it right next to NTA and in land that was where the Icky homes formerly resided. And they're kind of making the same mistakes again, because this was land that was formerly promised to Icky residents to return to. They were going to build mixed use income housing there. And now that plans are all scrapped, and they're going to build a high school there instead. So it's kind of like, you know, the same rigmarole is happening once again. So we're really hoping that, you know, film does have power. It does have voice. It can inspire people. It can make people think about issues in ways that they hadn't before. And I feel like CPS could certainly, that opportunity is there if they really dig down and view the film.
Oh, my heart just sank. Elisabeth, you're going to have another battle on your hand potentially. Let's hope.
We've already started fighting.
Oh my God.
So this one is it's inequitable in different kinds of ways. The biggest piece, as Kevin mentioned, being the loss of the public housing land, but subsequent negative impacts are also on the massively under-enrolled high schools that currently exist. And when I say massively under-enrolled, I am talking about high schools that are built for 2,000, 2,500 students who have less than 500 students in them. And this proposal, the CPS wants to build a 1,200 seat high school for, last count, the number was $150 million. And we owe the state of Illinois, CPS does, $80 million because we were accidentally overpaid when they did their budget a few years ago. So now we have to pay that money back to them. And we are CPS is looking to spend, you know, all of this money that they do not have. So it's fiscally irresponsible. It harms the low income individuals who were supposed to move back into subsidized housing. And then it also harms the enrollment at the other schools, which are majority Black and brown neighborhood high schools. Again, and to be clear, this is to build first of all, a 1,200 seat high school, which, as you know, is much smaller, right, than a high school should be, especially in a large city like Chicago. And it is a backup neighborhood high school because, of course, every single address in the city of Chicago already has a high school attached to it. And we have, and I'm sure New York City probably has the same thing, this very competitive, hyper-competitive selective enrollment process for high schools. And so there is one that everyone in the South Loop wants their children to go to. And so what the power brokers want, just like when they want to convert NTA, is a backup neighborhood high school should their child not test in to this particular selective enrollment high school that they, or a handful that they consider, acceptable options, right? Which we all know what that means.
Yep.
So we launched a campaign over the summer, and we successfully got it pulled temporarily, however. And so now it is back up for consideration again. So we're continuing to fight. This is all connected to the mayor. It's clear this is the mayor's pet project. And one other good thing about this one that makes it different from the NTA fight is that there are board members who are severely against this. And it is clear that this is a political ploy because the mayor has removed at least one board member who adamantly voted against it during the summer, and he was replaced with one of her yes men. So, it's one of these things where we're just going to have to continue to fight. And fortunately, mayoral elections are in February, and there are a lot of people gunning for the job. And so regimes change and things change and power brokers change. And we saw John Jacoby talking about that in the movie, right? And then we got a new mayor and they got a new CEO of Chicago Public Schools, and you have to start all over again. So we're just going to have to continue to be vigilant to make sure that our money's handled correctly, our tax money's handled correctly, and that our citizens get what they were promised, and that nobody else is harmed.
Whew, our stories are so similar, so similar. So the next follow-up question is, this story happened in the context of mayoral control of schools in Chicago, right? Because the switchover hasn't happened yet. Do you or the community members think that the coming changes in the governance of CPS may empower communities like NTA? If you can just hold off until the new governance system is in place, do you think you'll have a better chance of fighting this proposal or any future proposals?
Yes, actually we do. And for two reasons. So one, thanks to we have amazing local reporters here in Chicago. We're very lucky. And we've got quite a few who are dedicated solely to the education beat. And they dug up an internal confidential CPS memo written by the folks within CPS saying, this is a bad idea. We shouldn't do this. Here are all of the reasons why we shouldn't do this, right? So it's clear that unlike CPS, unlike the NTA situation, this one has great resistance from inside. So getting a new mayor will, I think, help to change that dynamic. The new mayors often appoint a new CEO, and then things change, and then things take time. And we're talking about a huge, massive construction project that we could sort of push off the rails, I think, at any time. The second thing that we have on the horizon that works in our favor is that we have finally gotten an elected school board bill. And it will not go into, it's a rolling, and it's kind of complicated and it's a little unwieldy, and not everybody is happy with it, but currently all the members of the board are appointed. And the new bill, and I'm not exactly sure when, I can't remember when it starts, it may be 23, it may be 25.
I thought it was 25.
It may be 25, I think
you're right. It was like way out.
Yes, it is out. And it's a slow
right.
roll. Yeah.
Right.
So it's like a couple members will be elected from the community, and then a couple more the next year, and a couple more the next year. So then it'll be like a balance of elected, appointed, until finally it's fully elected several years out from that. So I know that we are working on monitoring that, because of course that comes with lots of problems in and of itself. Power and money still applies, obviously, when it comes to elections and the democratic process. Nikita Brar and I, Nikita, who's featured very heavily in the movie, as a result of our fight to NTA, started an organization called Chicago United for Equity, which Nikita is now the CEO, the executive director of. And it has just grown and blossomed into this really powerhouse organization. I'm so proud of her, that really serves as a watchdog to bring equity to fields of government, to other nonprofits, and to for-profit companies. And so on that side, Nikita's got a lot of folks who is watching this situation like a hawk. And they are already planning on how they can elevate voices of community members who may be, disenfranchised, don't have a lot of money, don't have a lot of experience running, but want to run, right? And trying to tap into those people from the underserved neighborhoods, so that we don't get, say, a disproportionate representation of, say, wealthy individuals on the board, or wealthy white individuals on the school board, that don't truly, represent the children who are in CPS. So we're working hard to make sure that we're whispering in people's ears, you should run, you should run, you should run, to help to make sure that in the future, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, we will be able to have a better system that actually serves the students well, instead of serving the small percentage of people who are only really looking out for their own children and not looking out for the vast majority of children.
Can I have her contact? Would you connect me to her? 'Cause
Absolutely.
we are doing
Yes.
similar things here in New York City, and I could definitely learn from people who are already doing the work.
Oh
So
yeah,
that
she's
would
got
be
all kinds
great.
of blueprints at this point.
Oh, that's
She's
awesome.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have a citywide elected board, but we have 32 local school districts that have they're sort of like school boards, but not really, but they're elected members.
Okay.
So we're starting to think about equity-driven parents to be elected on those boards, not just people who are, only interested in their own kids. So
Yes,
I will
yes.
definitely connect with you.
Yes, I'll email her contact to you.
Awesome, thank you. One more question. Would it be possible that NTA adds grades 9 through 12 over time, or would there not be enough space in the current building?
Yeah, no, there's not enough space in the current building. And the building is also built like an elementary school. And that was one of the arguments that we always made. They've got little chairs and little tables and little bathrooms. And we just are not, we're not constructed for a high school. We have amazing facilities for a pre-K through 8th. I mean, things that you normally don't see in a public school, like a pool, like every classroom is a smart classroom. We have a huge field in the back, a track with a soccer field in the middle. We do have a lot of land. We have the playground, but it is still not enough for what you would want, a 2,500 seat high school. The facilities that they would need a huge auditorium. They would need, a bigger pool than what we have, those kinds of things. And also we're probably can seat, we're about maybe 800 kids, and we can probably take a few more, but that's really about it. So we're very happy serving the little ones,
the little ones,
middle-sized ones.
The little ones in 8th grade aren't so little anymore, though.
They aren't.
Oh my God!
No.
And that class session where the teacher was asking about the 13th Amendment and the passage from what they're reading, right? That was wow. That was just phenomenal to me.
Yes, and she's the assistant principal now.
Right. Yeah, that was the right. Yeah, but the students are like, wow, they're so deep. They're deeper than I can go. Amazing stuff.
Yeah.
So we've got 4 minutes left. Kevin, what is your next project? And will you come to New York City to do a documentary for us?
We can talk about that one, offline. You tell me what you got cooking up there, and we'll see. My next project, though, is I'm doing a story about a Little League baseball team here from Chicago, all Black team that took the nation by storm almost 10 years ago by winning the Little League World Series, only to have that title taken away from them when they found out that there were some ineligible players on their team. But should the title have been vacated or not? What did the Little League Society know in terms of who was eligible and who wasn't? What adults failed these children? That's kind of the questions that my next documentary will be posing. And that'll be out. We're still working on it. We're editing. We'll start editing next year and looking to release it in 2024, which will be 10-year anniversary of the Jackie Robinson West Little League baseball team controversy.
You'll add our email address to your distribution list so that we'll be sure to catch it when it comes out.
Sure will, definitely.
Great. And Elisabeth, any word of advice for those of us fighting a similar fight in New York City?
Yeah, absolutely. Don't give up. Do not give up. As you can tell from our story, it's a David and Goliath type of situation, especially when you live, like New York, like Chicago, a huge system with people who seem so connected, right? And it seems so insurmountable, in terms of who's got power and who doesn't. The power can be taken back, and it can go back to the community. And part of what the system counts on is you giving up and you saying, we can't do it. Because really that's how white supremacy works, is that it makes you feel as though you can't fight it. And so therefore you become your own worst enemy, and they don't have to do anything, right, in order to make you sit down and be quiet. We were told so many times, it's a done deal, it's a done deal. Why don't you just stop fighting? It's a done deal. And we just ignored that. We just would not listen to that. We were ready to take it all the way. I mean, there were folks talking about hunger strikes. There were people who said they were going to chain themselves to the building when they tried to force us to leave. I mean, that is how we were going to escalate in order to win. We did not imagine ourselves not winning. So that would be my advice, is to never give up. Rely upon each other, because you're going to have moments where you think you are so down and you just want to cry and give up. But when you rely upon each other in the community, so there's always going to be that one person who's going to be like, we could do it, we could do it. And maybe that person will be down in 3 months. And then you be that person, say, no, remember, we can do this, we can do this. And so if you rely upon each other and persevere, you can win. You absolutely can win.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And thank you for making the film. Thank you for fighting a good fight. Thank you for telling the story. We're going to be promoting this film as much as we can and forcing people to watch it. I really, really appreciate both of you for joining us and having done what you've done. So let's stay in touch, and I look forward to seeing you again sometime in the future.
Thank you, Shino, for everything. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elisabeth. And thank you, people who are watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend.